Hello, everyone, and welcome to Psychology 1000, Introduction to Psychology. So this is the welcome video. I'm not going to go into any course content here. This is just to introduce myself and also to tell you about what this course is about, also how it's structured, what some course policies are, and so everything I say here can also be found in the syllabus, which you can find on Canvas. But I'm going to go into a little detail here and give you sort of an overview. So what is this course about content-wise? Well, it's an overview. This is an introduction to psychology, to the idea of mental function and the mind. So that's a big topic. And we're going to go into a little history. We'll start off with some history of psychology. So that will be our first module. And we are certainly not the first ones in the modern era to think about the mind. How does the mind work? What does it do? How do we have an identity? How do we process information? So people have been thinking about this for thousands of years. So we've got to go over some of that history to understand where we are now. Of course, our modern understanding of mental function depends on the brain. So the brain is the most complex organ we have. It processes a vast amount of information and different kinds of information. It also has to store information, as we'll see. So the way we acquire that information is through the senses. So we'll understand how the senses work. How do they relate to the brain? How does the brain process sensory information? We'll also talk about learning and memory. So it's all well and good to take in information, but if you can't store any of it, that's not as beneficial. And so we have ways of learning, of changing our behavior, of storing information that we experience. We'll see also that it doesn't have to be our experience. We can store information that we read or that we see others experiencing. So those are all different forms of learning, and we'll talk about that as well. We'll get into social psychology. So certainly a lot of psychology focuses on the individual, but certainly as humans, we are a very social species. We are interdependent. And so we'll talk about how we influence one another, how we engage in cooperative or aggressive behaviors. So not all social interactions are positive, but we are a very social species, and that's an important part of our psychology and our mental function. We'll also talk about psychological disorders. So there are a large number of them. We don't have time to go into a lot of detail for each one. This is, again, is sort of an overview. So we'll talk about psychological disorders. We'll spend a couple of modules on defining psychological disorders and also on treating them. So that will take a couple of the modules in our course. So that's what the course consists of. What are we trying to do? What are our objectives? Well, one is to emphasize critical thinking skills. So psychology is first and foremost a science. We take in evidence, often via experiment, but certainly by observation, and we evaluate that evidence. What does that evidence tell us? If we have a theory about how the mind works, does that evidence support the theory, or do we need to reconsider our theory based on that evidence? So evaluating evidence and coming to conclusions, not just making assumptions, but really thinking about empirically, how do we think the mind works? Of course, it's an overview course. We're also trying to give you a general background in psychology. I just mentioned several of the disciplines, the subfields of psychology that we're going to talk about. And because it's an overview, we don't have time to go into detail for each one. But if one of these topics particularly interests you, the department certainly offers courses in things like the senses, in the brain, social psychology, learning and memory. So you can be on the lookout for those courses if you want to expand your knowledge in a particular topic. This course also is going to emphasize that psychology operates on a variety of scales. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, we're going to talk about the brain. The brain is composed of individual brain cells that we call neurons. So these are so small that they generally can't be seen with the naked eye. And certainly they have components that can't be seen with the naked eye. So we're talking about the microscopic. But the microscopic is important. It gives rise to brain function and therefore to mental function. We'll also talk about the individual, but also the scale of an entire society. Social psychology, how do groups interact? So society consists of millions of people. And so we'll see from the microscopic up to that large millions of people sort of scale that psychology is relevant for all this. And these studies at these various scales are all relevant to psychology. Okay, first, I also want to introduce myself. So I'm your instructor. My name is Damon Tomlin. This is my email address, and I'll say this again later, but email is the best way to get a hold of me, as this is an online course. So there's my email address. Again, it's also in the syllabus. This is my office number. So if you want to meet in person, you can schedule a meeting with me. My office hours are by appointment, since this is an online course. But I have an office in Columbine. If you want to schedule an in-person meeting, just send me an email and we can do that. We also have a teaching assistant, Shane Lynn. So this is his email. This is his office number in Columbine. And his office hours are also by appointment because it's an online course. But again, he will be happy to meet with you if you would like an in-person meeting. And email is the best way of getting in touch with either myself or Shane. Because it's an online course, I am not necessarily in my office every hour of every day. So just shoot me an email and give me 24 hours to respond. And I'm pretty prompt about responding to email, so it's usually even sooner than that. Again, if you email me at 10 p.m., it's probably going to be the next day that I get back to you. But email is a good way of getting in touch with me. And my first bit of advice is to read the syllabus. So the syllabus has all sorts of information. Also, if you have a question, especially about course structure, that's probably going to be found in the syllabus. So rather than write an email, wait for my response, look over the syllabus first, because there's a lot of good information in there. Okay, a word on course materials. So first, and most importantly, there is the syllabus. So if you go to Canvas, there should be a link right there in the course to the syllabus. You can download it in PDF format. You can look at it in the browser. And the syllabus, as I mentioned, contains a lot of important information. Information about assignments, about course content, and also things like due dates. So the assignments in this course are primarily exams, but we also have discussion, and there are readings that you need to keep up with. So the syllabus will give you the course schedule, and it is very important in this course to keep up with the schedule of course content. Don't fall behind, because then you'll find yourself trying to absorb a lot of material in a very short amount of time, and that's not a good idea. So keep up with the course schedule, which you can find on the last page of the syllabus. This is your textbook. It is Psychology, the 4th edition, by Schachter, Gilbert, Knock, and Wedner. I think it's a very good book. I think it's well written. I think it's even occasionally funny. I think it covers all of the important topics in psychology and really emphasizes the science. So psychology as an empirical endeavor. And that's what perspective this course is taking. Again, we're going to engage those critical thinking skills. So be sure to get the textbook and be sure to keep up with the readings. There are lectures involved in this course as well, and I always recommend that you do the reading before watching lecture. It'll help you absorb the material better. A little bit on technology. So this is an online course. There is technology involved. Obviously, you're watching this video on a computer. So you likely already have this, but you need speakers or headphones to listen to the lectures, because it's not just slides, they are videos. So you need to be able to watch them, you need to be able to hear me. Also, I provide documents, usually in the form of PDF, but sometimes in Word document form, and things like this syllabus. Other things like research articles will be provided in document format, so be sure you can open Word documents and PDFs. Browser, in terms of browsers, Mozilla Firefox and Google Chrome both seem to work the best with Canvas. I myself use Google Chrome. but Mozilla Firefox is also recommended. That's not to say you can't use another browser. Other people have been successful using other browsers, but those two seem to encounter the least number of problems. And also, for exams and only for the exams, you will need the Respondus Lockdown browser. So that is a special browser that you will need to download and install. And again, it's just to take the exams. You can use whatever browser you like to watch lectures, to look at the syllabus, to take practice quizzes, to participate in discussion. All of those things, use whatever browser you want. But for the exams themselves, you will need the Respondus Lockdown browser. And I recommend not waiting to the last minute. Don't wait till the exam is almost due to download it. I've never had a problem with the Respondus Lockdown browser, but sure enough, if you wait until the last minute, you may just encounter a problem. So don't put yourself in that position. Download it, install it. You only need to download and install it once. You may already have it installed if this is not your first online course. So bear that in mind. Respondus Lockdown is an important part of this course. For course structure, so it is an entirely online course. It's presented through Canvas, which you're obviously looking at now. It is also an asynchronous course. And what that means is that there are not scheduled meeting times for the course. You do not need to log in at a particular time or on a particular day to participate in lecture or discussion. That is up to you. So there are due dates for things like discussion and for exams at the end of a given week. But beyond that, which day and time you participate or absorb course material, that's up to you. So that is one of the benefits of this online course, is there is not a scheduled meeting time that you are forced to attend class in. It's up to you. But do keep up with course content. Again, don't fall behind as new material is presented. The course is broken up into modules, which you can see through Canvas. If you click on modules, you can see the modules in the course, and these will be presented periodically. Every week there will be new course content, and so the corresponding modules will become active, and you can click on those modules, look at their individual contents, and again, do things like watch lecture, participate in discussion, do practice quizzes. Those are all built into the modules. So when you open a module, what you'll see is an overview, which is just what it sounds like. It contains a description of what that module is about, as well as learning objectives. It will also have the task list, what you need to do for that module, the readings you need to do, the lectures you need to watch, practice quizzes if you wish, and discussion, as well as exams. So exams will have particular due dates. So I've already said this, but there are readings from your textbook. So every module will have a reading or two, and those readings correspond to lectures. I would do the readings before lectures. Again, it just helps you absorb course material that much better. The lectures are videos, so sit down and watch the videos. It's important to watch the lectures. Again, the timing is up to you, but the lectures will be based largely on the reading, but you can't just do the readings and know everything you need to know. I will often add things to lectures that aren't in the textbook, that I think are interesting, that I think are important to understand the topic. And so it's important to watch lecture, and to watch lecture in a timely fashion. Also, when it comes to exams, I emphasize the content from lecture. So if your reading contains some information, and I don't mention it in lecture, you probably don't need to worry about that as much as the content I do mention in lecture. I will also provide practice quizzes as part of each module. It is up to you whether you take those or not. They are not mandatory. They are not part of your grade. I do not require them. But they are a good way of testing your knowledge after you've looked through a module and assessing how well you know the material. They're also good prep work for the exams, which are for a grade, obviously. So the practice quizzes, up to you, not for a grade, but I do recommend them as a study tool. And also there's class discussion. This is built into every module as well. So for every module, there will be a question or two. And these are open-ended questions. These are not questions with a definite answer, where you go and look at the book to find the answer and then post that. These are open-ended questions. often about how you can apply psychology to your everyday life. So for that, you can respond to either the original question or you can respond to a fellow student. Either way, always be respectful. Also, when you write your post, uh, shoot for around 150 words. Don't make it too short. Don't make it too long. Write as much as you want to cover the topic, but it should be around 150 words. It should be clear. It should be on topic. It should be about that discussion question. And these are for a grade. You will need to participate 5 times during the course of the entire class. And that's not hard to do. There will be almost 30 discussion questions. So you only need to respond to 5 of them. As soon as you get full credit, 4 or 5 responses, you're done with that part of the course. Okay, a little bit more on course structure. So in terms of grading, where your grade comes from, there are 3 components to your grade. The first and the biggest one are the exams. That makes up 80% of your grade. There are 5 exams. The last of them, the final, occurs during the final exam period, but it's really just the 5th exam. It does not count more than any of the others do, and it also is not cumulative. It just covers the last portion of course content. The lowest exam grade is dropped. So bear that in mind. That being said, there really aren't makeups for this course. So because the lowest exam grade is dropped, because you will have nearly 2 weeks from when an exam is posted to when it is due, it's up to you to find the time to be able to take that exam. So that is a fairly long period of time to take a test. And again, there really aren't makeups. Under extraordinary circumstances, if you're hospitalized for 2 weeks, then I will consider a makeup exam. But just having a busy weekend at work or losing your internet connection for a couple of days, that doesn't do it. So if an emergency happens, and they do come up, then if you miss an exam, that counts as a 0, but that will just be your lowest exam grade. It'll get dropped, and then the other 4 will comprise your final grade for the exams. With that in mind, I would not intentionally skip an exam. Try to take all of them because emergencies do happen, they're unpredictable, and you don't want to be in a position where you already skipped one exam and now you find yourself unable to take another one because there aren't makeups except under extreme circumstances. So keep that in mind. A discussion is worth 10% of your grade. I've talked about discussion a little bit already. So every module will have a question or two that you can participate in. You can reply to the original question or to a fellow student, and that is 10% of your grade. Again, you need to participate 5 times during the course of the semester. If one of your responses is a little short and you don't quite get full credit for one of your posts, you can post again. You can also post a discussion if the topic interests you, even if you've already satisfied the discussion requirement. So that's 10% of your grade. The final 10% is the research requirement. So the research requirement, there's 2 ways to satisfy it. One is through participating in SONA experiments. So the SONA system, the link is in the syllabus, is how the psychology department does research. So you can sign up to participate in an experiment, and you do the experiment, you get SONA points, and so that is one way to satisfy the research requirement for the course, is to participate in those experiments and get SONA points. The other way is by summarizing research articles. The available articles can be found under the modules in Canvas, and so there are a variety of PDF articles that you can choose. You read them, you summarize them. The summaries will be 1-page, single-spaced, with your name at the top and the article that you're summarizing. Should be in your own words. Do not quote the article. Certainly don't copy and paste from the article. So this should be your summary of the article. So again, those can be found underneath the modules in Canvas. That is the other way to satisfy the research requirement. Every summary, if it's done properly, counts as 1 SONA point. So you can also mix and match. You can do some SONA and some article summaries. You can check the syllabus for more details on that. You can also do extra credit. If you get research points either through SONA or through summarizing articles in excess of the requirement, you fulfill a requirement first. If you do any more than that, then you can get up to 3 percentage points added to your final grade. Every additional research point will give you 0.5% on your final grade. You can't get more than 3% added, so don't do more extra credit than that. But again, satisfy the research requirement first, and then if you wish, you can do extra credit. Accommodations. If you have an accommodation from Disability Services, be sure to give me that documentation as soon as you can. That way I can take your accommodation into account when it's time for things like exams. So try to send that to me as soon as possible if you have an accommodation. Okay, that will do it for this welcome video. So we've gone over some overview in terms of course content, in terms of course structure. Again, be sure to look at the syllabus as soon as you can, and the material for the first week of the course. If you're watching this video, it is probably already up. So be sure to check that out, and again, keep up with the course content. Also, if you have questions in general, there is a separate discussion post forum for general questions about course structure. You can find that under Getting Started in Canvas in the modules. So if you have a question, you can post it there. Okay, with that, you can feel free to move on to the first module, and I look forward to teaching the class.